right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks again for participating in our Accessible and Inclusive Design Conference, hosted and put together by the Training, Learning, and Development community. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to take a look real quick. Oh, yes, the room is filling up nicely. If you can, please just post a little thing in chat. Oops. Okay. A little thing in chat to let me know that you are in the room and that you can see us and that we are good to go, because I am very, very excited about this particular session. Yes. Thank you, Carla. Thanks, Carlos, Stephen, Chrissy, Kimberly. Really appreciate that. We have Amy Morrisey here, who's the president of Artisan Learning. Artisan Learning, I've just known for, I don't know how long it's been. It's been the quite a few years now. I've always thought of Artisan as one of the premier L&D companies out there. We see Diane constantly out presenting at conferences and events, and Amy, I see your name out there as well too. And congratulations on having such a wonderful organization to support L&D. And just a little bit specifically about Amy, president of Artisan eLearning, which is a custom e-learning development company. Amy stays focused on maintaining the high standards their clients have grown to expect. And before working with Artisan, Amy spent 17 years in corporate training and development, predominantly teaching advocacy and leadership development. In addition, she coached teams and executives and is a past board member of ATD Detroit. And when she can, Amy loves to go all in on designing meaningful and actionable learning experiences. And so today, Amy is here to talk about 8 things you can do tomorrow to make your e-learning more accessible. This is going to be a great way to wind up our day. And with that, Amy, I'm going to go ahead and hide myself from the screen and let you take it away. Sorry, Amy, for some reason we lost your audio there. I'm not sure if we got muted. Oh, I know that was weird. We were just talking a second ago in the green room and something disappeared. Maybe it was, you know what? I think I heard your phone ring. Was that when we first started, a phone rang? Maybe something switched when that went off. Yeah, still can't hear you. No, not yet. Very strange. Okay. All right. So a little bit of some technical difficulties. We'll get Amy back on. I don't know if, and I think maybe everyone may have heard that, but I think her phone triggered, and Amy, what you can do also is if you go into the bottom of the screen and go to your audio and video settings, it may be that your audio got rerouted for some reason. And let's see, Leah has a question. Thanks, Cindy, for mentioning that. Yeah, question away, Leah. Okay. If everyone sees Leah's question, feel free to answer there. Oh, still don't have Amy there. And Amy, like Cindy had mentioned, you might want to log out and log back in. Maybe that would work. I'm going to go ahead and mention with the
Can I try now?
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. I can hear you.
Woo!
Wow. All right.
Nothing like a little sweat to start a session, right?
Now you're legit. You're totally legit now. So I'm going to go ahead and hide myself and let you take it away.
Okay. Thanks for everybody hanging out in the chat while that happened. I hope that doesn't happen again. I hope that you have had a great conference so far. I am thrilled to be a part of a group that will spend days focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. It has to be a part of that conversation. And there have been great sessions with huge names. I love the kind of speakers that the group has been able to put together. So if you haven't been able to see other sessions, make sure you check those out. So I decided to do something here with this complex topic. I find that accessibility, especially when I first kind of started to get the bug around it, it felt really big. It felt complex. And I started to have these feelings of like, well, how do we do it all? Like, what should we as an organization be doing? Where do we start? What can I do tomorrow? And that's where I want to focus for just a little bit. So we're here to focus on tomorrow. Voltaire is credited with the expression, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So in the next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to share 8 ideas to get you started. Might not be super deep. We are not going to go into a lot of technical, but doing these things won't make you perfect, but they'll make you better than you are today. So hopefully at least one of them will catch your attention. Before we begin the 8, I want to ask this question that we like to ask at a lot of accessibility sessions. Who deserves to get better at their job? If you have an answer to that, throw it into chat. My chat is over there, so if I miss some of the things, forgive me. But who deserves to get better at their job? Everyone, right? Everyone deserves to get better at their jobs. So who am I? I didn't introduce myself. Luis did, but I'm Amy Morrisey. I am a middle-aged Caucasian woman. I'm nearsighted, but with corrective lenses, I can get to 20/20. That middle-aged thing, we're having a little hard time reading. So it's really easy for me to design learning for people like me. But if I'm designing only for people like me, I'm deciding who deserves to get better at their jobs. And I don't think I get to do that. And so I want to ask you this question. What is your why? That could be, why did you come here today? That could be, why is accessibility important to you? This is such a tight community. It's such a loving community. And so I'm curious, in chat, if you could throw some things up there, why does accessibility matter to you? And as you're thinking about that, I think about learners that I've had, and that's important to me. But I've like Dawn. Dawn says, because it helps everyone. Dawn says, I like to make sure everyone can learn from it. One of my whys is my sister. My sister, Cindy, is legally blind, and I've watched her navigate a world that's not built for her. So that's part of my why. I was a teacher and I learned how easy it is for people not to understand things. We have these moments that we say, this matters to us, and we want to pull forward these experiences and create better learning. So we have a lot of committed people here, but I have another question. What is their why not? Now let's define who they are. Maybe these are the people that are the decision makers in your organization. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's people who say building accessible content is not worth it. What is their why not? So put those in chat as you think about that. This is a tough question because if it were easy, we would all be doing it. But we have roadblocks that we come upon when we try to build accessible, and I'm focused specifically on e-learning. Okay, I have dollar signs. That's a big one, right? Dollar signs. They think it's not me. It doesn't affect enough people to make it worthwhile. It's overwhelming. It's expenses. There's no ROI. They don't care. They're not directly impacted. You got it, right? There are so many of these. Here's one of the ones that kind of drives me a little bit crazy, and we hear it all the time when we speak with some of our clients. They'll say, well, no one with X, insert disability here, can do Y, insert job here. I like to say nobody with X can do Y in a world that's built against them. That sometimes happen. But what I'd like to do is show you an example of where this kind of thinking can get us in trouble. And maybe this is even something you can take back to some of those decision makers and use it as an example yourself. So I'm going to put a slide on the screen here in just a moment. And I'm specifically asking those of you who have roughly 20/20 vision, 20/20 to 20/40, to pay attention. For the rest of you, I will describe what's happening, but just in the land of trying to prove our point, those of you who have pretty good vision, I'm going to ask you to put in chat what you see on screen right now. Now, for those of you who can't see it very well, we have something on the screen and we have a blur. filter on top of it. So what we're kind of trying to do here is create something where we're, sort of grossly emulating not being able to see it so well. All right, Carla's in bread. Ina's in bread. Okay, so there's 2 loaves of French bread with a blur filter. Okay, I'll ask you one more question, same group of people, throw it in the chat. Can you make out what this image is? Now, for those of you who are having a hard time, the image is intentionally blurry. There's something behind the image and they're getting it. Blurry bananas. I like that one. A table filled with bananas. Okay, so now I have a question. For those of you who've been playing along, somebody with X can't do Y. So let's pretend that your Y, not WHY, but the value Y, is that you're a bagger at a grocery store. Your job is to take groceries and put them into the bags. So could you, given the sight impairment that we have, simulated here, could you make it such that you don't put those heavy bananas on top of my soft bread? Could you do that? Yes or no in the chat? An instant yes. Great. Lots of yes. Got it. Yes, we can do that. Okay, so then here's what we do in learning. And I'm going to show you something else. Now, this slide, for those who can't see it, has the exact same blur filter that I put on top of the bread and on top of the bananas. But what's behind it this time is the class, the e-learning that I am asking the bagger to take. So those of you who can see this, would it be easy for you to take this course? If you had to slog through that course, Alyssa says, no, 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 no. Everybody's saying, nope, 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 nope. So I can do the job, but we're building learning that isn't accessible to me. And I don't want to do that. And you don't want to do that. So we've established our why. And now I want to get you to the 8 things. We're going to move relatively. I do like Kara says it gets clearer when I took my glasses off. I have that problem too sometimes. So I'm going to give you 8 things. We're going to move relatively quickly. Remember our goal. Our goal is good. We are not going to let perfect be the enemy of good. There are lots of things we can do tomorrow. And I'm going to tell you this little secret. Most of them you can do without talking to anybody. You don't need extra money. You don't need extra time. You can just do them. Is it perfect? No. Is it good? You bet. All right. First thing we're going to look at. Good color contrast. Now, chances are you might have heard about good color contrast before. I want to share with you some of the things that we hear that are a bit inaccurate. The first one we get a lot when we talk about using good color contrast is people say, but I have to use my color palette. My marketing folks, my comms folks, they care about that. And I can't sway, I can't move away from the colors that they've given me. It's important to know that color contrast is not about the colors you use. It's about the colors you use on top of one another. So let me share an example. So on screen, we see a multiple choice question. There's what's the heaviest thing that you should put into a single shopping bag? So we're taking our shopping analogy a little bit forward. We've got answers, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. But the question is written on a light tealish background with white text, and it's not easy to see. It doesn't have proper color contrast for some people. So I'm going to show you a different slide. All we've done is make the tealish color a bit darker. Now the white produces the appropriate color contrast. But how do you know if it's good enough? You can't really necessarily do this by feel. So I want to give you a tool. By the way, I'm going to give you all of these in a resource later. So don't feel like you have to write a whole bunch of things down. I'll give you a URL and off we'll go. But WebAIM is a place where you can go and remember foreground, background. That's what's important in color contrast. So you can put your foreground color in, you can put your background color in. And then if you'll look right here at the bottom left, you're going to get a pass fail. So you'll see the word pass. This color contrast passes WCAG or WCAG AA, but it does not pass WCAG AAA. Now we're good. Okay. Number 2, add closed captions. Okay, you know what this is. The tools make it easy. Why do we not add closed captions? Well, for many years, people called them craptions. Did you ever hear that? The AI wasn't great enough. People didn't think it was perfect. We didn't get there. We're going to stop making perfect the goal. We're going to make good the goal. If we're looking at 8 things we can do tomorrow. Now, can we get better and better? You bet. The tools are getting better. You see the closed captionings that are going on under me right now if you need them. Authoring tools are building them in. PowerPoints are building them in. So you can pay people to do this. Shout out to 3Play Media. They're our vendor of choice. It's not that hard to add closed captioning, and it's really important. So that's a simple one. Number 2, add closed captioning. Number 3, make bigger buttons. So if you are developing e-learning, let's pay attention to your button size. And your button size matters on your computer screen, it matters on your iPad, and it matters on any mobile device, a phone, let's say. So if I have this slide, and this slide is a consider each pair of food items and indicate if you can bag them together or not. We're going to be so good at bagging groceries by the end of this. It's going to be awesome. So in this case, we've used very small circular buttons. We've done some smart things. We don't let color be the only way to indicate meaning. So you get either a check mark or an X, and the check mark's kind of in the teal family and the X is in the red family. But if I can't see color, that doesn't matter. So we've done some good things here. But even those of us who take this on a phone and kind of fat finger it would have a hard time hitting those buttons. They're too close together and they're too small. So very simple. We're going to move them bigger. We changed a little bit the nature of our slide. Our header had to get a little bit smaller to accommodate. But can you imagine if you had a dexterity issue, maybe a temporary one, maybe a permanent one, and you were a little shaky with your mouse, hitting those buttons would be a good opportunity for you. If you are using your fingers on a tablet, bigger buttons, helpful. So let's not worry so much about aesthetics, though I think this is aesthetically pleasing as well. And let's get those buttons bigger. Yeah, there's some good stuff going on in chat. Symbols can be tricky too. They might not know what they mean on their own. So we always want multiple ways to establish meaning. I think that's really, really good, Erica. And then Elizabeth says, closed caption trick, send the video to yourself in Teams, then auto-generate the captions to go through it and make corrections. Boom, your VTT file is ready. I do that kind of stuff all the time. We'll have one device playing something and another device doing the speech to text. And however it is I'm using it, whether I'm putting it in for a VTT file or maybe I'm just putting it in for an outline. That's a really awesome tip. Like, use technology if you can. All right, ready for number 4. Number 4, stop using sense-based language. Sense-based language, that's hard to say. So what does that mean? Sense-based language is any language that we use that we direct people based upon our 5 senses. So for example, if I have narration, let's pretend this is narration in an e-learning course, and I'll read it. If I have narration that says, at RQM Financial, it's not just about saving money, it's about helping individuals and families achieve their goals. Do you like my e-learning voice? I love it. Click the speaker icons below each family to listen to their stories. All right, so what are our sense-based words here? What are things that we're putting in? And I'm going to look over here at chat. Click. We got click right off the bat. Excellent. Listen, sense-based. I have to be able to hear something in order to listen. Now we're getting good here. Below, speaker icons. What speaker icons? I don't even know what that is. Where is it? Imagine if I'm trying to navigate with a screen reader and they're telling me speaker icons and I don't even know where they are. So I know there's a lot of talk about a sense-based language that is more directed at making people feel other. Meaning if I say, take a look at this, and I'm talking to, let's say, a blind person, is there insensitivity there? I'm not going to have that conversation. I think it depends on the person is my answer. So I don't really want to think about that for this tip. What I want you to think about is, how do I navigate that course with the directions that you're giving me? And how can I change it? There's super simple ways of doing that. Oh, I like Philip even added family to the list. That's interesting. So now at RQM Financial, it's not just about saving money. It's about helping individuals and families achieve their goals. Select each of the play buttons to learn about several families' stories. So now what do I have? I'm not clicking, I'm selecting. And that's become kind of the standard. It's funny that we often still use the term click to reveal when we'll say select in most cases. This is helpful if I'm on an iPad. I mean, do we know that if it says click, it means we're supposed to tap it? Of course, yes, we know that. But select, just, it's a more inclusive phrase, so why not use it? At Artisan, we do use all buttons. We have a device, and so they get bolded in their capital letters. So that's something that we do. We do that with the submit button or any button we're directing people to just kind of make it pop. If that's helpful to learners. But now we're going to learn about several family stories. So now it's not to hear them, it's not to listen to them, because if I select one of those family stories, I'm going to have closed captioning. So I might be reading about that family story as opposed to listening to the story. So very simple tips. These are things you can do tomorrow. You can do them on your own. You don't have to have buy-in for it. And we're making it just a little bit better. All right, number 5. It's funny that I just checked the time. Allow enough time. And make sure I can get through my my eight items, and I checked it right at allow enough time. So WCAG, we pronounce it WCAG around here. People pronounce it a variety of different ways, but the standards and the 508 standards state that we should not use time elements in courses. So if we are scarcity mentality people, it's, oh, we can't put a timed game. Oh, we can't. Well, we don't think that way. What we're going to say is allow every learner enough time to learn. So the standard here helps lots of people. So I want you, again, let's go to the chat here. What are some reasons people struggle with time elements in courses? That could be e-learning courses, but we can even go back to high school and timed tests. That might have been a struggle as well that you might have seen. Oh, I love that the first ones are anxiety, people reading slowly, cognitive disability, dexterity, being able to reread content for understanding, language barriers, ESL. I think that's a great one. Duress from pressure, like that's hardcore, right? That's real stuff right there. And I think it's really important. It also is hard for me if I don't see well. It's hard for me if I can't use a mouse without precision. It's hard for Jean. Hi, Jean. If the baby's crying and I need to pause, it's all of these things. If we're navigating with a keyboard, the list just goes on and on and on. And yet there's kind of pervasive use of timers in e-learning courses. So why might we use them? Really, I think what I would say is this: if there is a legally defensible reason to do it, then let's do that. But if there's not a legally defensible reason, then let's try to make those interactions more inclusive. So what I have on screen here is on the left. These are all just back end for Storyline, but it would work with any of your tools. If I have a quiz timer, I'm going to get rid of the timers. We don't want to do that. Legally defensible reason. Let me give you an example of that. I am training air traffic controllers, and the thing that I am training on is the decision-making time they have before 2 planes crash. That's a legally defensible reason to give them a timed-based question or test in an e-learning course. I personally would like for them to know the answer to that in an appropriate amount of time. But if we're doing it because we think it's more fun, if we're doing it because people like leaderboards, if we're doing it because gamification is awesome, let's really question those things and be better designers. Let's think of other ways we can do all of those things. On the right side, you will see slide properties. Now, this is one that you may have not considered, and I want you to consider, and that is auto advancing slides. It's interesting to me. A lot of our clients do like auto advance because they sometimes have that feeling of e-learning and sometimes feels like a little bit of a slow medium for them. And so why do I have to click or select the next button? So that may be that may be their motivation. I'm not here to question their motivation. What it means though is for the person that we described, for the person that needs a little more time, who might need to process the information a little bit. I need information in smaller chunks. That's helpful to me. That auto advance is challenging for them. So we want to always set that to by user. Let's let the users control how they move through the course. And again, I'm going to say, separate from accessibility, let's be awesome designers so that we're not just, people say, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want clickbait training. We've heard that, I just hit the next button until I get to the quiz for my compliance training. That's not an accessibility issue. That's a bad design issue. And so we want to be better designers instructionally so that we can not only appeal to all learners, but we can also make sure we're taking care of those learners who need that extra time. So yeah, we've got a couple of other ones here. Unlocking seeking after a user finishes a slide so they can go back and replay particular parts. Yeah, that's awesome. Brooke, thank you for that. And what I like about what you all are throwing in is some of them are tips, like these are tips, 8 tips that you can do tomorrow. But some of them it's just about getting into our mindset and thinking differently about what kind of user I have. So it's kind of what I said at the beginning, not kind of, it is what I said at the beginning. It's easy for me to design for people who are like me. But there are lots of people in the world who are not like me. And so I love this feeling of trying to imagine how they would use the course and what sort of tips and tools can we use to make that more accessible and easier for them. Awesome. I appreciate that one. Okay. Inclusive imagery. Inclusive imagery and keeping the right image on the screen. I like to, when I talk about imagery to our team and when we look at why imagery matters in courses, for me, it is one way that learners or users can see themselves, can recognize themselves in our courses. So whether that is sort of the age-old diversity issues that have, I think been around for a while, even though we might not exactly be winning yet, but things where if I am a middle-aged woman, that I don't only see women in the course in, subservient positions. That's awesome. But we need to make our inclusivity larger. So I wanted to give you some tips on how to include accessible imagery as you're putting that inclusive imagery together. I'm going to use Getty Images. That's the tool that we use at Artisan, but any of the stock photography would be able to help you with this. And so what I want you to get at is how we might search effectively for the best image. So I'm looking for a business meeting. I'm going to put that into my course, and I take a look at the photos of business meetings, and I scroll and I scroll and I keep scrolling, and there it is. However far down we are, our first wheelchair. Awesome. And that is all we're going to get. So we wonder why there's so many wheelchairs in courses. This might be why. So now I'm going to add the word disability. Great. Wheelchair, 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 wheelchair. Okay, I finally got down to the bottom with something a little bit different from a wheelchair. So now I'm just going to add minus wheelchair. So I added disability minus wheelchair. And now as we scroll through images, we see people with Down syndrome. We see people with prosthetics. We see people using sign language. We see people who are blind. And now we've got more inclusive imagery. So use those search elements in your stock photography images, and it works with icons, it works with illustrations. So in this case, what we did was we added disability and we subtracted wheelchair. Number 7, make text readable. So it's always a little bit challenging because what does readable actually mean? So what I'd like to do is look at some ways we have a tendency to make text hard. And this is in e-learning, but it's everywhere. You know, this text is too small that we have on screen. It's teeny tiny. Those of us who need to add glasses and it works for us, but it's too much. So we want to be careful about making our text too small. We want to be careful about making our text too funky, right? Just because you can use a crazy font doesn't mean you should use a crazy font. So let's try to keep those a little less funky. Centered. So as we process information, there are lots of people who just like to center everything. It's really hard for us. It's called recalcitrant recovery when we get to the end of a line and we're trying to go back. For those of you who remember typewriters, that's where the term comes from. So you wrote a piece of typewriting text and then you hit enter and it went zoop, zoop, and it sent you back to the other side. And so centered text is very hard for us when we get to when we get to the end side. The right side is okay. When we get to the beginning of the line, the second line of text in this case, where it says are heavy and, it's hard for us to find it. So centered text makes it hard to read. All caps. Now there's, the whole social media thing that says if you put things in all caps, you're screaming. And that's a good reason not to put things into all caps. But it is also terribly difficult for all of us to read. So when they do eye tests, when people, any human reads, putting things in all capital letters, for those of us who are in the Romance languages, makes it challenging. So we don't want to do that. So what is just right? Just right is left justified text. Depending on your medium, you want to look at font sizes. So if you're going below 12, yes, I said 12, I did not say 11, and I did not say 10, you are making it harder for someone to read that text. And that would be sort of for our PDFs, our documentation. When you're in a presentation in PowerPoint or in Storyline, there's a little bit of, it kind of depends on the source on what size it should be. Sometimes we get up into the 16s for our headings and whatnot. If we're in PowerPoint, I've heard anywhere from 26-point font to 32-point font. I think we really have to go back to what is the environment we're in and who are our users. And as I said, if developing for me is easy, developing for people who are not like me is a little bit more challenging. So I would prefer to make it as easy as possible for them. And I don't really think there are lots of people who get to the end of a course and say, wow, I did absolutely learn how to pack my bags, but did you notice they wrote in a 16-point font? That's weird. It doesn't happen. So let's not worry about it. So lots of different ways to get our text just right. The other thing I want to hit on with text is the types of fonts. So back when I started in the corporate world, there was a philosophy that said you want to use serif fonts. And just in case you don't know what that means, a serif font, if I have the T, like in Times New Roman is a serif font, and they have those little kind of wings on the ends of the letters. The little serifs is what they're called. Arial is a sans serif font without serif. So I know a lot of you already knew that, but there was somebody that didn't. So see what I mean by being inclusive? We're going to take the time. It didn't hurt anybody for me to describe that. In the same way, we want to, so back when I started, I taught a lot of grammar and a lot of business writing. And the conventional wisdom of the time was that people read faster in a serif font, like Times New Roman. The wisdom that we're hearing today is that sans serif fonts, Tahoma, Calibri, Helvetica, Arial, Verdana, those are some of the more common ones. The spacing between is easier for most everybody to read, but really we're kind of leaning into neurodivergence here. There are also fonts, for example, there are fonts that are helpful for dyslexics. So if we knew that we were designing for a room full of people that were dyslexic, we might choose their like weighted fonts at the bottom. But if you're just kind of going general and you say, I want to select a really nice font, any of those sans serif fonts that I just mentioned, Tahoma, Calibri, Helvetica, Arial, Verdana, any of those would work. And again, left justified and an appropriate sized font. All right, let me just check over here because there's, we have a whole sidebar conversation going on about personas. I love that. Oh, you just had a middle school flashback. I love that. Well, enjoy. So Risa says it's a lie. Serif fonts have always been harder to read. I'm working from, research back in the day from speed reading courses. That's where I got that research. But I'm with you. If we don't, I've always preferred the sans serif as well. Good question. What am I using in this presentation? I believe it is Calibri, but I will pop off at the end but it looks too fat for that. It's probably Arial. I don't know the answer to the question, so I'm not going to try to answer it, but I'll get you one. I think Arial too. That's what it looks more like. Okay, last one. It's a really big generic, learn more. Keep doing what you're doing. You will be better tomorrow if every day you wake up and say, how can I be better tomorrow? And so as you're on this journey, I don't know where all of you are on this journey. Some of you might have been, I didn't know there was any such thing as accessible learning. I'm going to go check this thing out. Some of you may be, looking for, this might be way too elementary for you. That's all right. I want you to have something that you can take away as well. So we have put together some of our favorite accessibility resources in this. I'm going to put the URL into chat here in just a second. This will open up a RISE course for you. And it's just a listing of, some of our favorite WCAG helpful tools. So your WebAIM that I talked about earlier is in there. There's a link to that. There's a link to, Luis mentioned Diane Elkins. She's one of our founders, and she speaks on accessibility and has spoken on accessibility for years and years and years. There's several sessions that she's put into place, some templates. We just kind of popped it all in there for you. If things were a little bit too elementary that I shared, you'll be able to find more there. And for those of you for whom you're like, hey, of the 8, I have 7 great ideas. Put that to the side, because next week you're going to want to learn more. And the next week you're going to want to learn more. And then the last thing I want to tell you, if you haven't already, I always wonder in this audience if this is old news. In your social media channels, in any of your social media channels, I would love for you to start changing your algorithm. And the way you change your algorithm is this. If you see something about accessibility, select it, respond to it, like it, heart it, forward it. And what the computer is going to do for you is to say, this person likes accessible content. I'm going to keep giving this person accessible content. And pretty soon your eyes will just, like your view of accessibility will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. One of the things we love to do, in fact, I was just at a conference last week teaching alongside a good friend of mine who is a package designer at Procter & Gamble. I don't just want to know what learning people are doing about accessibility. I want to know what everybody is doing about accessibility? What kind of products are out there? What's the thinking behind those products? How could I apply that thinking to learning? What kind of people are they trying to reach with these products that I never even thought of before? What are the feelings behind that? So, I'm a huge TikTok fan. I know, I'm not the demographic, I guess, but huge TikTok fan. And my algorithm is filled with accessibility. One of my favorite things I saw, it's been about a month or so ago, I saw these two women, and one of them was on a walking bike. So she needed a wheelchair normally, or a walker. No, it was a wheelchair normally. And she got this accessible bike. And so she would walk alongside her friend with this piece of equipment. And her friend was talking, and her friend said, my favorite thing about her bike is that I get to look her in the eyes when we walk together. And it just makes me feel so good to see the joy on her face when she doesn't feel like I have to bend over to talk with her. Now, maybe other people in wheelchairs don't have that problem at all, but to see the joy that this product brought to this relationship, it fuels me and it makes me want to do more and more. So that's the other piece I'd give you. My last one there is change your algorithm. So here are our 8 things. Use good color contrast, add closed captionings, bigger buttons, stop using that sense-based language, allow people time, inclusive imagery, make text readable, and then get out there and learn more. Final note before I go to Q&A, all ability is temporary. So as you are trying to advocate in your organizations about accessibility and about ability, remind those stakeholders that tomorrow they could be the person who needs help with the mouse. They could be the person who can't get up the stairs to go to the office. They could be that person tomorrow, as could any of us. So all ability is temporary. I'm going to take a look over at the side here and see if we have any Q&A. If you have to pop off, I understand we're super close to time. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for engaging in this really awesome community. So if you want to pop off, I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'm going to look over here and see if we have any Q&A.
Amy, I was watching to see if there was anything, and I didn't really see anything. I know that there was one question. Oh, there it is, from Gloria Carrasco, about asking if there are any programs that let users choose the font. Yeah,
good question. Oh gosh, Helperbird is something that you can do as an add-on to like a browser extension. So that would be something that you might be able to choose fonts on a website. In terms of e-learning tools, I don't know of any. And the layers, the other thing that's happening in websites right now, which I suspect will probably make it to the e-learning community at some point, is overlays on websites. So you can purchase an overlay, and then the overlay theoretically turns any website accessible. They are at this moment not getting great reviews from the accessible community. And so if we're looking at overlays, or if you see some come up, I would just highly recommend to do a little bit of testing and a little bit of asking within the community, so that, we're doing, good for the people that we're trying to do good for. I suspect all of it's going to get better and better and better because there's a focus on it.
Very nice. Yeah, Gabrielle's saying that Helperbird works on Articulate. The accessible text option just has to be available for them. Yeah. No, it's great. And I didn't see any other questions. There was so much conversation happening in chat. Just you really lit up this group. So Amy, fantastic. It was a great presentation. I just can't believe that just one after the other. So far it's just been Monday and Tuesday, but it's been a great event so far. And you have really contributed so wonderfully to it all. So thank you, Amy. What else can we do to help with artisan learning? Is there anything that TLDC that can do to help promote you or get you out there?
Hey, we anything, keep inviting us. I think the community that you have created is fantastic. And it's really been fun to watch it grow. And there's definitely a culture, every organization has its culture, and you have really cultivated a beautiful culture in this.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's gladly, it's pretty much the community that just drives all of this stuff. And I'm just happy to kind of be here to just help nurture it along.
Thanks for your humbleness, and you deserve a little bit of a pat on the back for bringing people in. So,
oh, thank you so much. All right, well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the session. I'm not seeing any other questions. Everyone, thanks again for being here. Tomorrow we have another great day scheduled. I think it's going to be, well, we've got 4 sessions tomorrow, and let's see, let me pull up the schedule real quick so that I make sure that I'm not misspeaking here. But Wednesday, we're opening it up with Cynthia Donahue and how L&D can drive inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility in organizations. That should be a good one. And then Leah's going to be talking tomorrow. There she is in chat. And remember, Alan Natachu had rescheduled his from today to tomorrow, so we'll see him in the afternoon. And Rebecca Pregene will also be featured tomorrow as well. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the session. Thanks again, Amy. Give our best to Diane. And yeah, we'll see everybody tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone.